Hey you! Yeah, buddy, I'm talking to you right there. Are you tired of being a Zergling? Are you too scared to go in PvP without the help of a 20-man squad to back you up? Well, look no further, buddy. This is the guide for you. Here I'll be giving you some tips on fighting in outnumbered situations so you can stop being such a casual scrub. But before we begin, there's going to be a small disclaimer here. This is all going to be coming from the POV of a light melee focused player, but the general principles in this guide can still be applied to any other playstyle that you might have. So without any further delays, let's get right on into it. Alright, so before we get into any gameplay, we first have to talk about gear. So yes, gear does matter. It's going to be very important, especially when you're fighting in an outnumbered situation. You will have to have a nice balance of survivability and damage. The number one rule of fighting is that you can't do any damage if you're dead. And number two is that you can have all the survivability in the world, but if you do no damage, then what's the point? You're going to be useless. And you're going to be completely useless if you meet either of those two criteria. So let's get started and take a look at some of the gear that I have. You can see some of the key perks that you may want to look out for and what to get. So, starting out, Enchanted Ward. It's a really good perk to have on your gear. It reduces damage from light and heavy attacks, which is going to be the bulk of the damage that you're going to be taking. If it's not going to be an ability, you're most likely going to be in a light or heavy attack, especially if you're fighting against a great sword, any type of fire staff, a void gauntlet, great axe, etc., etc. You get the point. So it's going to be some real good mitigation if you have this stacked on multiple armors. Number two, Shuriken Heals, one of my personal favorites. You get health back anytime you dodge an attack, and it can trigger once every 7 seconds, and it stacks with each piece that you have this on for your armor. It's a really good perk, really adds to your self-sustain, so you don't have to worry about a healer healing you as much. As long as you're good with dodging, you should be good to go. Refreshing is pretty decent. I wouldn't say that it's a must-have, but it's pretty decent to have because you will get your cooldowns back faster, which means you can deal more damage out a lot faster if you have more abilities to use, or if some of your abilities may have some self-sustain built within it. Like for example, the Great Sword has a healing passive that benefits whenever you attack with a critical hit, and Great Sword has built-in guaranteed critical hits in it when you use skills and go into onslaught stance, so that helps to get that up faster. So refreshing is also pretty decent to have. You do have other things such as Invigorated and Vigor. Those will help reduce the dots and the debuffs that you have on you, which will also help towards your survivability. And usually with Vigor and Invigorated, one of the more popular things that you will see with that's being used now is to run that with the Djinn head wrap artifact, since this will further reduce the dots on you and the debuffs on you. You also have Mortal Lifesteal, which is also another good perk to have on one of your armor pieces to give you some lifesteal, as well as some sustain whenever you kill somebody. To give you a nice little burst heal to keep your survivability up and keep yourself in the fight. Of course, you have Hasted Vigor. Anytime you're in an outnumbered situation, you're almost always going to have a dot on you. So this will help you get that haste up so that you can move faster, which will also help towards both your survivability and your offensive capabilities. And lastly, any type of weapon perks, such as for example Leech and Flurry, gives you some health back. You also have things such as Leeching Cyclone for like a spear. Let's see, where is that at? Which will also give you some health back. Have Relentless Freedom, which will help get rid of any roots or slows on you, which will help with your survivability, etc., etc. You get the point here. So those are some of the key perks you want to look for when building your armor set. And for artifacts, especially if you're going to be in light armor, one of the most popular ones you want to have to get is Featherweight. This will allow you to equip 2 heavy pieces, which will increase your defenses. And Featherweight is my go-to personal favorite artifact to use when running light. I almost pretty much always have Featherweight on. It's really good. Other substitutes for Featherweight for your armor artifact are going to be the head wrap, like I just talked about, or tumblers. Tumblers gives you both a defensive boost and an offensive boost, as well as sort of a bonus shirking heals whenever you dodge an attack. And it's on a shorter cooldown as well, just 1 second. It's pretty good. As for jewelry artifacts, you're going to have really 2 choices, but I'll say 3. The third one is going to be kind of an honorable mention, although I'm not a big fan of it. Number 1, my go-to personal favorite is Ankh, which will boost the power of any heals that you receive. It will nerf the lifestealing and your consumables as well by 25%, but it's kind of negligible if you ask me. Your heals are still going to be strong from potions, and lifesteal is still going to be pretty decent. And with Ankh, I always put Shirking the Power just to have extra empower on myself for the extra damage. Another alternative you can use for a jewelry artifact is going to be Endless Thirst, which will make your consumable stronger, which is also going to be a big boost to your survivability, because you can just do a nice big burst heal if you get real low on health, and pretty much you'll be at almost full health. And the honorable mention for that is going to be Blood Drinker. Now, I'm not a personal fan of Blood Drinker just because of the minus 25% damage. That's a pretty hefty damage loss right there. But Blood Drinker can still work. And lastly, for armor, or I shouldn't say lastly, one thing is going to be your Heartrune. Heartrune is going to matter. For me personally, on a lot of my builds, you'll see me use Stone Form. Stone Form provides CC immunity, gives you some health back with the Mending Form variant, as well as some defense with the Mending Form as well. You can use something as like Spit. Let's see, where's my Spit at? Spit is pretty good. It inflicts slow, as well as exhaust and disease, so that way you can prevent the enemy from healing as well. And you can also run something like Thorns as well, or Vines, I should say. Vines with the Weaken, it inflicts Rend, and it has a root to it, so that can help for either setting up a combo or escaping. So let's go with jewelry stats here. So of course, number 1, for your ring, if you're not running Hardy on your ring, you're trolling. You need that plus 10% max down so that you can dodge roll 3 times in a row if needed. Having that extra dodge is tremendously helpful, so you're not spamming yourself. The second most important perk, in my opinion, is going to be Healing Breeze. This is going to be a really strong heal over time. It can proc from multiple different sources. It doesn't proc from lifesteals, so keep that in mind. And some weapon perks, this would also trigger it on some of them. Not all, but some of them will trigger Healing Breeze as well. Like for instance, I know with the Great Sword, healing perk inside the Great Sword tree does trigger Healing Breeze. I believe the Great Axe does not trigger Healing Breeze. There may be other variants that I'm not 100% sure on, but Healing Breeze is strong either way. Healing Breeze also does proc off of Shaking Heals, so that's something to keep in mind as well. And usually for a ring, for your third perk, you want some type of damage. So like for most of my builds, I have converted to Arcane, so I'll go with Arcane damage. So that's going to be for your damage aspect of it. Lastly, for your earring, my earring, I usually have it set up to where all 3 perks give me some type of healing back. So that way I'm maxing out on the amount of sustain I can have for myself so I can stay in the fight for as long as possible. So Healthy Toast will give you some health back whenever you use a mana pot, and mana pots are on a shorter cooldown than your regular health pots or regen pots. So this gives you another source of healing, and this also procs Healing Breeze as well. Then you have Healing Heart, so whenever you pop your Heart Rune, you're also getting an extra 10% max health. It's really good to have in my opinion. This comes in clutch in a lot of situations. And of course, third is going to be regenerating. You're always going to be regenerating some health whenever you're in a fight. This is always going to be useful. Just constantly getting some type of health back. You can't go wrong with that. And for an amulet, even if you're not running Ankh, you want to try and get Divine and Health, at least these 2 perks. The third perk that you put on the amulet can be up to you. Me, I always like to go with the Shuriken and Power just for the extra damage sustain. But you could go with like some type of conditioning for extra survivability. But Divine and Health, you definitely want to have on your amulet. Divine for the increased healing on any type of healing that you receive. And Health, of course, having more health means more survivability. And as for your jewelry slots, you can play around with your jewelry, your gems, to see what works for you. Me, this is the resistances that I usually keep. This is what works for me. Feel free to switch it up depending on how you see fit, but this is just what I usually run on every single one of my builds. Now with the armor perks out the way, let's get into your stat spread. As far as your offensive stats, you want to try and min-max these as best as you can to get the best damage output. But one of the most important things is to make sure your constitution is at a good healthy point to allow you to stay in the fight and to make sure that you don't die as fast. Now me, I typically like to go for at least 150 con. Right now you see me sitting at 102, but with rabbit food, here I'll just pop a rabbit food real quick. With rabbit food, that puts me at 150 con, which will put me at about 14, a little over 14k. Usually I'm sitting around 14 to 15k health. That's a good, nice, respectable amount of health to where you're not sacrificing as much damage, and you also have a nice amount of health to sit on. Now, if you're not too comfortable with fighting Outnumbered, you can bump it up to 200 con, but I wouldn't go any more above that because then you're going to be sacrificing a decent amount of damage to make up for the survivability. Okay, so now let's get into some gameplay here. But before I roll the clip, there are going to be 5 things that I always keep in the back of my head as I'm approaching an outnumbered situation that are going to be important in helping you become successful in the fight. Number 1 is to pay attention to what your environment layout is like. Number 2 is going to be paying attention to the position of all the targets that you can visibly see, and try and keep a mental note of where they are, where you think they might go, and how they are playing. Number 3, is going to be identifying who the squishiest target of the group is. Usually those targets are going to hold either a musket, bow, rapier, or possibly a mage. Although sometimes mages are kind of iffy because we do have the Azoth conductors, which can make a mage a bit more tanky. So sometimes with mages, they can be somewhat tanky. They may not be your first priority target as far as the squishiest target to go for. So you do want to be on the lookout for that. Number 4, who and where is the healer if there is one? And number 5 is who is the tank / disruptor / CC bot. You always want to save them for last if you can, because they're going to be the hardest to kill. And lastly, the number 1 most important tip when it comes to approaching any outnumbered situation is to always keep moving. Cannot stress that enough. If you're standing still, you're dead meat. So we're going to start this off here with a pretty easy one. It's going to be a 2v1 situation, and then we're going to progress from there. So here I'm approaching on these 2 guys here. They're hiding behind this wall, trying to set up a trap for me. And of course, you know me, I'm going to go right into it just because I want to. And then I hear a musket shot. So immediately, that's going to be the guy that I want to try and take out first, because he is going to be doing a lot of damage to me if he's able to get those clear shots off. And notice how I'm using the environment to move around, keep some line of sight on these guys so they can't just melt me with range. And watch right here. Here where I'm exposed myself to get up these steps, I dodge roll just to make sure I can't get hit. And now it's time to take out the musket guy. Muskets all tend to run fairly low con, so they can have high damage output. And even right there, as I throw out that wave, I stick close to that wall to make it harder for that fire staff guy to target me. And I'm able to take out that musket guy. And now the fire staff guy is not so much of a danger by himself, so I'm able to freely pressure him without worrying too much about a whole lot. And I'm able to get him with a relentless rush. And now he's stammed himself and he doesn't know what to do by himself. So from there, it's pretty easy to take him out. And that's an easy, successful 2v1. Alright, coming up here, we have 3 guys sitting on the tower here. There's going to be 2 on the top right and 1 at the bottom left. And there's also a fence on the left side here that I'm going to try to use as line of sight to take out the guy that's on the bottom left first before the other 2 jump down and start attacking me. So let's go ahead and play the clip. And this guy that was on the bottom left, he is using a fire staff. So he is somewhat squishy, and I'm ended up able to take him out really quick. Now, as they jump down, you see here this guy throws a poison shot, so I know that that's an archer. So immediately I jump on him next because he should be my next squishiest target. And I end up taking him out fairly quickly. So now it's time to jump on to this last guy here, the blunderbuss. He's doing some decent job at keeping distance. So we just got to close that gap here, take him out with a meaty heavy. And now we have more people that jump in the fight. So I noticed that this guy on the right, he's separated from the pack. I'm going to try and take him out quickly. And he also has a musket. So he's also going to be fairly squishy. And the other 2 that are in the back are too busy using range. So I'm going to use this tree and this fence here to get some line of sight. And I take out the guy with the musket pretty quickly as well. And now the other 2 are jumping on me now. So you see me, I'm going to try to use some line of sight here and try and do damage where I can to take these guys out, but they have some decent CC, so I have to back away. And there's more people that jumped in the fight. I believe they have a camp around the way, which allowed this guy to respawn faster. And I end up getting caught with a CC here, and I die because of that. Now, you're not going to win them all, but as long as you kill at least 1 person, it's a win in my book. Alright, so here is a similar situation to the last clip. You got a couple purples here sitting on a capture point, and I'm pretty much just going to run up and do what I do to them. So let's go ahead and roll the film. Starting off here, we see we have a great sword guy. He's fairly squishy. I put some pressure on him, make him back away. I don't commit too much to him because I want to get rid of this ice gauntlet. I do try to prioritize ice gauntlets first if they're squishy. because they can mess me up as a melee player. And notice here, as I was fighting those two, I was using those steps as some good line of sight to kind of make it harder for them to hit me. And then we end up taking them both out. And lastly, we have this mage here. And this is going to be one of those tanky mages that I mentioned before. He's fairly tanky. He's running a Void Blade and Fire Staff. So he can be pretty dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Pretty much the ideal stat that you want to do when fighting one of these guys is to do a lot of pokes and dodges. It may sound obvious, but you do not want to try to face tank him. Because he's tanky and he will mess you up with that Void Blade. Now we do have some yellows that end up coming up here, and surprise, surprise, we do end up just zerging this guy down at the end just because there's all these yellows that jumped in, and that's going to be that one. Alright, so this last clip is going to be in good old CTF, the best game mode in the game. Starting off here, you see me jumping into the back line here while one of my teammates goes to grab the flag. But pretty much after he grabs that flag, I am the only person that sits back into the back line on these respawns, and I am doing a lot of work here. So starting off, you see me just dispatching of a couple guys here. They're pretty squishy, so I've taken them out relatively easily, and there's not much else they can really do. I have a lot of damage to me as well as sustain, and I'm just dispatching these guys. You know, they just got some fresh respawns that came in here. Got 3 guys here, 4 now that are down here, so I have to get out of here. Doesn't matter how bad they could be. If there's 4 people on you, you're going to take a lot of damage and possibly die. As you can see, I almost die right here. I do a double dodge, and I have to jump down. And I grab some boosts here, heal up. And one guy does jump down here with me, but I do have an archer up there that's also shooting me. As I'm fighting this guy, I have 2 archers actually. Kill him, and now I'm on the defensive. But even though you're on the defensive, you still want to be on the offensive at the same time to try and get some sustain back up. So now I'm back at a decent health. More people come up, and I'm in trouble. So I use my skills here, get a little bit of health back. Back on the defensive, use some line of sight. This guy thinks he's about to run around the corner and get me, but that's where you have to be on both the defensive and the offensive at the same time there, even though you're low health. End up tripping him, kill the next guy, end up taking all 3 of these guys that chased me down here out. So now it's time to hop back up into the action and put in some more work. And as I'm fighting these guys, I do want you all to kind of take note as to how I'm dodging and when I'm dodging. You really want to try to avoid stabbing yourself if you can, and try and get good at timing dodges just get a real good sense of when you should dodge stuff. It's like there was a nice dodge on a sweep. Then I relentless rush through these guys, and I try to do a thrust to get some health back going. But I end up getting staggered by the shield bash, and they end up taking me out there. But I still consider that a very successful 1vx, just because of how much I survived there and how many people I took out. Alright, so that's going to be it for the guide, everybody. I hope that some of you are able to take away something from here and apply it to how you play. And hopefully we can see some more of you taking on outnumbered fights instead of being some zerglings out here. I do plan on making some more PvP focused guides, so if that's something you're interested in, feel free to give me a sub and be on the lookout for those. Other than that, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like and comment if this guide was helpful to you. Now go out there and start killing some scrubs, and remember, GG's buddy, have a good one.